Imagine working full-time, taking classes at night to get ahead, trying to care for a family, and wondering if you'll ever be financially secure. You're doing everything right. You're working hard, paying bills, earning a degree. Yet the cost of living keeps climbing higher and higher while your paycheck stays about the same. For many of us, this is not an imagine-if thought. This is reality. No matter if you're 20 or 50, being financially stable in the working and middle classes feels like it's slipping away for good. The American dream used to mean that effort and determination led to success. Now that dream is going into the pockets of the 1%. Our livelihoods are becoming increasingly dependent on what mega corporations decide to charge, pay, or automate on any given day. Corporations are reporting record profits. CEOs are earning hundreds of times more than employees, and mega real estate firms are buying up homes by the thousands, turning neighborhoods into investment portfolios. At the same time, workers, families, students, needless to say, the rest of us are juggling rising debt and shrinking opportunities. Over the next few minutes, I will explain how corporate power is destroying the economy and steamrolling our fragile democracy. I'll show you how that affects each and every one of us, and how unity, not division, among ordinary Americans can restore balance, fairness, and lead to a thriving nation. The Economic Policy Institute reports that CEO pay has grown by nearly 1,200% since 1978, while the average worker's employee pay only increased by 26% in the same time period. CEOs are paid 281 times more than their average employees. Incomes include monthly paychecks, million-dollar bonuses, and robust stock awards. Mega institutional investors like Progress Residential and Invitation Homes have been increasingly buying single-family homes since the 2008 market crash. Today, nearly 600,000 single-family homes, not including apartments, are owned by corporations, and in some metro areas, these investment agencies control roughly 25% of the housing market. While 600,000 make up a small percentage of the total 45 million rental homes, you have to understand almost all of these institutional rentals have been acquired within the last 10 years. Prior to 2011, there were only 1,000 single-family homes owned by corporations. As a result of this recent phenomenon, home ownership is declining rapidly while automated corporate rentals are increasing year over year. More working people are forced into renting than ever before and may never have the chance to build real estate equity. Yet, while the working and middle classes get left behind, the world's first trillionaire is projected to occur in the next few years, with more quickly following. These select few, who already control major corporations, are now embedding themselves directly into politics and media. They control the most powerful media outlets, including news stations, streaming services, and social media. They hold defense contracts and even have a superior presence in our skies. They shape public opinion and national policy at the same time for their own gains and are getting filthy rich in the process. When billionaires, soon to be trillionaires, can influence elections, regulate their own industries, and broadcast their own personal propaganda, democracy itself becomes a product they own and manage at will. Corporate domination of housing, media, and politics isn't just about profit. It's a game of who has the most control. Control over what we earn, control over what we see and hear, control over what we believe. And in a global market, this means control over the entire world. But while corporations may have gained power through strategy and uniting for a common goal, so can we. The same way corporations join forces for greater power, the working and middle classes must unite around a shared purpose to protect democracy and economic fairness. This means recognizing that no matter what political party you are, what state you live in, what age you are, or what religion you belong to, your struggles are not isolated. You share the same problems as your neighbors, your coworkers, your peers. Whether you're a barista, a nurse, a truck driver, a small business owner, or a college student, We are all fighting the same battle, and it is not with each other. For decades, media and politics have pitted us against one another. Blue collar versus white collar, working class versus middle class, rural versus urban, Democrat versus Republican. But the more division amongst ourselves, the more corporations are behind the scenes, lobbying for loopholes, increasing prices, changing media algorithms, and now even replacing workers with AI. No matter who we are in our personal lives, we all feel the same heavy weight from the same system. The divide between the working and middle classes is only real because that's the narrative we see on our screens. The truth is, we are all workers working for the same machine, and this corrupt, one-sided system doesn't work without us. The labor movements of the 1900s, the civil rights movement of the 60s, the women's suffrage movement, in the end, these all succeeded in their primary goals, not through wealth or power, but through unity and having a collective purpose. Uniting not because we hate corporations or billionaires, but because we must have a democracy that truly represents the people. A democracy that began with pilgrims escaping monarchy and oppression. A democracy that united colonists to form their own nation and write a declaration to safeguard future generations from ever being ruled by royalty again. Unity is the only solution to exploitation. If we can remember our roots, remember that we are on the same team, we will hold the cards to change the game. Now that we know that unity is the ultimate solution, let's imagine what might happen if we act, and if we don't. If we continue on our current path, our not so distant future will be owned by a handful of corporations. Imagine a future where most neighborhoods belong not to families, but to institutions, where home ownership becomes a rare occurrence except in luxury areas, where rent is set not by the residents or small businesses, but by mega real estate firms and algorithms. Picture trillionaires owning the media you watch, the food you buy, the houses you rent, and even the data that tracks your thoughts, your health, your habits, and your words. On the surface, there may be perceived freedom, a shell of a democracy, but underneath lies ownership and debt to those who run the world. However, if we unite and push back before it's too late, we can have a holistic nation once more. Picture an America where small businesses thrive, where workers earn livable wages, and effort and hard work actually pay off. Where the wage gap between the top and the bottom isn't astronomical, and where the bottom can reach the top without having to be born in an upper-class society. Where we can all receive great health care and a great education at a low cost, because those should be natural rights and not conditional on status. A country where democracy actually represents the people and is not governed by wealthy elites in the pockets of even wealthier elites. This can still be our future, if we decide to take a stand together and stop the corporations that have stolen our freedoms. Past generations built the middle class from poverty through intense effort and a unified vision. Now we must protect it and our entire democratic system, and not just for us, but for our children and those who come next. So what can we do starting now to take back the American dream? First of all, stop scrolling and instead educate yourself. Stop mindlessly using social media and instead focus on a few trusted journalists and meaningful groups. The more you numb out on Instagram and Netflix, the more time you are giving to corporations that want nothing more than to distract and control you. The more you argue with people on X, the more divisive content the algorithm gives you to argue about. Understand that if you are on the left and you watch left-wing videos online, you will see very different news stories than those who are right-wing and watch right-wing news stories. It could be the same breaking news, but the two sides will hear vastly different stories because algorithms show them different perspectives. Instead, follow independent journalists and independent news podcasts that do a good job of telling the whole story in an unbiased manner and are paid solely through subscribers rather than big donors. Stop listening to the divisive content that talks trash about the other side. Stop judging the other side. We must come together as Americans. Educate yourself about how PR actually works, how propaganda is utilized ferociously in this country, and learn our country's history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Finally, we must work to vote out corrupt politicians and vote in those who prioritize people over profits. Get involved in the legislation being written and signed and understand where your tax dollars are going. We will never agree on everything. You may not have agreed with everything I said these last few minutes, and that's fine. That's more than fine. That's great, because we all have the right to be human and think differently. But in the end, as citizens, we all likely want the same three things: stability, dignity, and opportunity for ourselves, our family, and our friends. And if you want those things, just remember, no billionaire, no corporation, no politician, and no algorithm can divide us, because we, as ordinary citizens, the majority, stand together. The American dream will be ours once more. Thank you.